Who were you before the world told you who to be? That is a question that I feel like everybody needs to answer, especially if you feel lost or stuck in your life. And the reason that I think that that's something that everybody needs to answer is because I think we hold ourselves back and we play it small because we're so busy trying to fit into a box that somebody has already laid out for us when we're not necessarily that person. So we end up living our entire life or most of our life inside the expectation of other people instead of just living up to who we're supposed to be. And when I say who we're supposed to be, I'm talking about who God told you to be. And I'm going to use myself as a personal example. Shout out to Michaela because I was talking to her. First of all, I just want to publicly thank God for the internet because there are so many people that I've been connected to through the internet that I never met in real life that are so near and dear to me and that I appreciate so much. And Michaela is one of those people. We met probably like 2020 or 2019 and we were on Instagram, but we were both in Total Life Changes together. And Total Life Changes is an MLM association. And not at all, nothing shady happened. It was just something that I had outgrown. I still use their products. It just wasn't something that I saw myself doing. I saw myself coaching people and being inspirational to people, but not necessarily in that regard. But that's how I met her. She's also no longer affiliated with that, but she is another influencer in the influencer world. And I was talking to her about something and she reminded me of something that I said in a video and it made me think about what I'm talking about. So shout out to you, girl, for bringing up this because you kind of inspired this podcast episode. So what she said was in the video, I have three YouTube channels, one primarily where I talk about the same topics that I discuss on TikTok and one where I talk about how I've been building my following. So basically it's one of those pages where I'm teaching you how to monetize yourself as a creator. And in the video, she said, you said how you were running from your calling. And I was like, I did. That's crazy. And so when we talk about who you're supposed to be or like who you were before everybody told you who you were supposed to be, I think that I'm an example of that because I remember feeling like God was telling me to speak. God was telling me to stop trying to fit into the matrix. And when I say matrix, I don't just mean a 9 to 5, because I know that that's what people diminish it to. But I mean the entire everything that you think about this world and that is predictability and what we're supposed to do, how we think about money, how we think about sustaining ourselves, how we think about educating our children, all of those things. I knew God was calling me out of it. And the thing is, I didn't want to be in front of the camera. I didn't want to talk. And I did that for a while. And I was going about it in a way that was what I thought was honoring God at the time. But it was really me worshiping money. And so I stopped. I pulled away from it. And I was like, I'm not going to do this internet thing. And I stopped completely. And it took me a while. I mean, I completely got rid of all of my social media. Well, not all of. I only had at the time Instagram and Facebook. Side note, I might have a Twitter account out there, but I don't use it. It's an account. It's a long story. I started a Twitter account in college because of some crazy stuff that my friend dared me to do. But I don't think that I ever canceled that account. So when I say all of my social media at that time, I was on Instagram and I was on Facebook and that was it. But I just turned them off and I got off the internet. And during that time, I got so much more clarity on how I was supposed to be living my life and what God expected of me, and not in a calling sense, but just in a child of God sense. Like I was so blinded and I was always a believer, but I was living my life so wrong and so lukewarm and in a way that I know was disappointing to God. And so during that time of not being on the internet, it was really a beautiful experience. I was still on YouTube, but I wasn't making YouTube videos. I had never been making YouTube videos at that point. I was just a consumer of YouTube content. And so I was watching YouTube videos and things. And I found myself realizing that what I had believed about God was all wrong. I had to shatter everything that I believed. And so when I came back to the internet, it was because I made a TikTok account, just like everybody did during the pandemic. And I was just watching. And then it came to a point where I was like, I need to start sharing these things that I know. And so I started doing that. And in that time, I was like, I don't want to be in front of the camera. I'm just going to make really cute videos and do voiceovers. That's all I'm going to do. And that was me not, I just didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. And I spent so much time making these videos, not really so much time, but I would, every time I made a food recipe or something like that, I would do that. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to share the good news through my vegan recipes. And I found myself like, I didn't feel fake, but I felt like, why am I hiding behind this screen? Like, why am I making these videos and doing these voiceovers? And so I would still do it. But one day I felt compelled and I turned the camera around and I just started talking to the camera. And it felt so much more freeing because it was easier to do. One, it wasn't so structured and I could do it at any point, and it didn't take a lot of editing. The thing with the other videos was I had to record me making the food and I had to go back and edit it and then do the voiceover. You can make a video in 30 seconds. You can turn the camera right to however long it takes me to make the videos that I make now is how long it takes, because all I do is press record and then I upload it and that's it. And so it obviously became much easier for me to speak, which conveniently became less limiting. So I was able to share more. I was able to speak more. I was able to get those messages out without having to wait on the recipe and the editing and da. So as you would imagine, it made it easier for me. Now, what does this have to do with who are you called to be and who were you before the world told you who you were? I wasted so much time, and I'm hesitant to use the word wasted because it wasn't time wasted. It was a lot that I learned. But I wasted so much of God's time getting to the point where I was supposed to be, or getting to where I am now, because I was running from the thing that I was supposed to do. I wanted so badly to be normal and to make the normal life work for me, even though I knew that it wouldn't. I knew that God had something different for me, but I still wanted to go to school, work in the medical field, become a doctor, like do all of these things. And so I wasted so much time going through the applications, getting accepted into school, working this internship, working this job at the hospital, putting my kids in school and doing like all of this stuff and just dancing around, doing a bunch of nonsense that was not for me. And I was running from the thing that God was calling me to do. And so the reason that that's relevant is because my life always felt harder when I was efforting so much and when I was trying to go on to do the thing that I felt like other people expected me to do. And to be clear, nobody ever came to me and said, hey, you need to do this. This is what you need to do. But because I felt like it was so much pressure, and I don't know how to explain this. It was so much pressure that I had put on myself, like quiet pressure. Like I think that people have these things, and I start to project, and I felt like, no, I have to do this. I can't do this. This is not right. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is the normal thing. This is the expectation. This is what you need to do. You can't be home. You can't be a stay-at-home mom. That's not normal. That's weird. And so like I was saying all of these things and just really projecting terribly, right? And so when I finally got to the point where I was consistently on the internet, which was last year, y'all, last year, I wasted so much time playing around. And so I got to the point where I was like, I'm going to share. I'm going to talk, and whoever hears it, hears it. And would you know that when I did that consistently, not even a month, I had my first viral video. And it's not about the virality. I want you to know that it's not about the virality that I'm sharing this, because the virality is only part of the experience. I believe that what God has for you and what he intends for you, he's going to make sure that you get it if you do what you're supposed to do, right? But the virality was a sign because, like I said, I had been so strategically placing my content that I felt like it had to be this way and I had to do this. And if I could not film a video, guess what I didn't do? I didn't post any content. If I could not film a recipe, I did not post any content. So imagine all of the thoughts that I had in my head and all of the things that I needed to share that were being held up because I was waiting on myself to make a video. And so the way and the importance and the significance of that viral video that came after I was being consistent is that it let me know you are efforting entirely too much. You are doing way too much and it's not necessary. And so after that, I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. Whatever I have to say, I'm getting on this camera and I'm saying it. I don't care what I look like. I don't care what my excuse is. I'm going to get on here and I'm going to say it, because God basically made it easy for me to speak to people. God gave me a voice that for some reason is so captivating to people. God gave me the skill to speak in a way that the majority of people that I speak to understand what I'm saying. They resonate with what I'm saying, and they genuinely like the sound of my voice. And so who am I to not use that to do the good of God? And I'm saying this because if you've been following me for long enough, you know that it happened very crazily overnight. It feels like overnight, but it wasn't overnight. But it was a very quick time when I started to be intentional, and when I stopped fighting. It was like the snap of a finger. I was with my cousin today, and she said, she was like, yeah, she said something along the lines of like, yeah, it's funny because I remember you had like 1,000 and then you had like 7,000. And then she was like, and I remember when your mom came to Texas, she was like, it was a holiday. It was like, was it around November? Was it December? I don't know. But your mom came, and I remember I checked your page again and you were at like 50,000. And then I checked again and it was 70,000. And then it was 90,000. And so having that conversation also made me like, do you see how easily this ship started sailing when you stop trying to do it your way? When you stop trying to put your own limitations on yourself, when you stop trying to live into the bubble. Because another reason I didn't want to do the content creator thing or the influencer thing is because I do not know anybody that's doing that. And it's not the easiest thing to say and be proud of. And it's not the easiest thing to say, like, everybody's doing this and everybody's talking about what they're doing. And it's like, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom and I create content. What? Like, are you going to get a real job? And not saying that it's not a real job, but I'm saying that was my own limitations and my own limiting beliefs that I had placed on myself and my own insecurities, to be honest with you. And I'm only sharing this because I know that people think this, and I know that other people go through this, and I know I'm not alone in that. So in me hiding from the thing that God wanted me to do, or the gift that God has given me, I was doing a disservice to myself and to everyone around me. Because what I also started to realize with how quickly things started to happen was that it would have been this way all along if I had stopped playing sooner. If I had stopped playing small, if I had stopped being in my own way, if I had stopped trying to go against the grain, if I had stopped trying to do everything else except the thing that I was naturally good at. And I do believe that there is suffering and pain for every believer. I do believe that life will get hard, but I do not believe that labor for us is always going to be something that's painful. I think that sometimes God will give you an ability and a gift to do something with such ease that the only thing you have to deal with is the surrounding isms. And the hardest thing for me as a content creator is honestly just sometimes dealing with negative people, sometimes dealing with the anticipation or the anxiety that I place on myself about a particular topic. Like, oh, I don't really want to talk about this because I know it's not going to be received well. And sometimes putting things out and it doesn't get received well, or it doesn't get enough views or whatever. And those are just the normal things of the flesh, like wanting that validation. But when I think about the way that everything happened so quickly for me, and when I think about the people that I've impacted along the way, it just makes me so compelled to say this to people. Who are you supposed to be? Who is God calling you to be? What is the thing that is nudging on your spirit that you need to do, and why are you not doing it? And why are you allowing things to get in your way? Why are you allowing your own anxious thoughts and your fears of what's going to happen? Why are you allowing those things to stop you? Why are you allowing other people's expectations of you to stop you? And I don't know the answer to that question, but I think that if you sit with it and you ask yourself and you face those things and you take those things to God and you decide, I'm going to do it anyway, whatever it is, because this is not a post your content type of episode. Whatever that thing is, whatever God has called you to do, if you're in education and he's been calling you to go open a micro school, you're in education and he's been calling you to go and open a daycare, an early child care center, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it is that you know you're supposed to be doing. I want you to take this episode as a sign to go and do the thing, because sometimes we just play too much, and sometimes we're in our own way, and sometimes we make things more difficult than they need to be, and we make excuses, and we dance around, and we do everything except what we're supposed to be doing. And all we're doing is wasting God's time. And I will say that no matter where you are in your journey, there's always something to learn from it. Because as much as I sit here and say I was wasting God's time and I was dilly-dallying and playing around, there's a lot of insight that I have on my life at that time. And I can use that to empower other people. Because I can tell you, when I say it was hard and it was a state of confusion and it was the worst phase of my life, nothing dramatic and bad was happening in my life. It was just that I was not performing. And that's a terrible feeling, to know that you're supposed to do something, or to know that you're supposed to be doing something better or greater or something intentional, and you choose not to do it. So I don't want you to have to suffer through that. So I would like for you to take some time today and reflect on who it is that you were before the world told you who to be, and why you're not showing up as that person.